Chapter 9. Jordan, Connor, and Samantha sat at the dining table, quiet as usual. The dining area was near the front door, and made Jordan feel like he was up on a stage in front of an audience. This old house, with its many steps and levels, was in no way wheelchair-friendly, but it had enough personality to get by. Jordan looked over at the fireplace and saw Dad in his office. He kept shouting to the kids that he was almost done, just one more minute. Samantha had cooked some kind of tuna pasta with green beans. Connor always put hot sauce on his, claiming that it made the pasta taste unbelievable. Jordan decided to try it that way tonight and was pleased with the results. Dad finally came up from the den, walking very slowly up those 5 steps like it was the hardest thing ever. He looked exhausted, terrible. He sat at the head of the table, as if watching over the family from a throne. "Jesus, Donnie," Samantha said from a seat closest to him. "You look awful. You shouldn't work so hard." "Noted," he replied as he tore into his food. Jordan and Connor glanced at each other before returning to their meals. Silence returned as well. Jordan hated eating at the table, but Samantha encouraged it. She said she wanted them to act like a traditional family. But they weren't traditional. She was just Dad's longtime girlfriend whom he refused to marry or impregnate. And Jordan's cousin was treated like a brother and son. Perhaps Samantha was trying to impress upon Dad that she could be a good wife and mother so that he would pop the question. She wanted him to think it was his own idea, even though she was subtly leading him in that direction. The boys looked at Dad, waiting for something, anything. After what Connor had said about Samantha, Jordan was sure she'd grown tired of waiting for a real commitment. He couldn't blame her, but that didn't mean he agreed either. "Look at us," she said, beaming at them all. "We look like a real family." Dad suddenly stopped eating and stared directly at her. "Just like a real family," he agreed. "But we're not a real family," she added coldly. "Not yet." "And tell me, what does make a real family?" Dad sounded emotionless and weird. Samantha swallowed. "A mother and a father. Marriage." "So," said Dad, "if we were to get married, my kids would automatically become yours? Is that what you're saying?" Samantha looked at the boys. "No, but it would be a start. And if we had our own kids—" "I don't want any more kids," Dad interrupted. Samantha looked like she'd been slapped. "But, Donnie, why—" "We've talked about this before," he interrupted again. "Why do you look so surprised?" Samantha looked scandalized. She absently toyed with a napkin as her eyes darted toward everyone at the table. "Don't you love me?" she asked Dad in a near whisper. "I do." "Then why are you doing this to me?" she wailed. "Doing what?" Dad returned in kind. "What am I doing?" "You make me feel like some goddamned—" "Slut?" Connor supplied. Samantha flashed him a glare cold enough to freeze hell before continuing. "You won't marry me? You won't have kids with me? What am I doing here if this relationship is going nowhere? I feel like an intruder." "You're welcome to leave." That was all Dad would say. If Samantha had looked like she'd been slapped before, that was nothing compared to how she looked at that moment. Was she expecting a marriage proposal now? She looked close to tears, but managed to stay composed. She stopped playing with her napkin, stood up, said, "Fuck you," to Dad, and then walked out the door. Samantha and Dad broke up that very night. Though Jordan didn't miss her, he did feel sorry for her. She'd committed 10 years of her life to nothing. She and Dad had fought many times over the years, but this time felt like the final time. Now that Samantha knew for certain where Dad stood on the subjects of marriage and children, she no longer felt committed to the relationship. She left within the week, taking many things with her. The house actually looked significantly different without her, prompting Jordan to realize just how much she contributed to its interior design. Every day at school, Jordan paid more attention to all the couples than he had before. He gauged the levels of love they showed, wondering how long they would last. Not long, judging by some. Others would probably last through most of college. When it came to Aaron and Travis, however, Jordan liked to think they were on the verge of a breakup. Aaron was a wonderful human being who deserved to be treated like a goddess. Travis was a grade A asshole. It made Jordan sick to his stomach knowing they were together. But Aaron was smart. She was with Travis for a reason. If only Jordan could figure out what that reason was. He sat in the darkened English class, watching the tiny TV. The teacher, Miss Randall, sat at her desk, also watching. She'd put on some Tennessee Williams movie, an adaptation of one of his books that the class had read the previous week. They'd even written an essay on it. Jordan didn't care, though. He liked watching movies. He felt a tap on his shoulder and turned back to see Aaron grinning at him. "Your cousin said something about camping this weekend?" she whispered. Jordan groaned. "He wants to go camping in the woods behind our house." "But you don't want to?" Her grin faded. "Well, it's dangerous. People have died in there." "The Texas Devil, I know. Connor wants to go looking for it. Sounds like fun." "That sounds like fun to you?" "I love camping. I even have my own tent and sleeping bag. Don't be scared. I'll protect you." Jordan was about to smile until he suddenly thought of something. "Is Travis coming?" "Well, he overheard Connor and me talking," she replied. "He wants to go too." "Of course he does." Jordan sighed. "You don't like him, do you?" It wasn't a question. "He's such a jerk. How can you stand being with him?" It was Aaron's turn to sigh. "I know he is to other people, but he's really nice to me." "Do you love him?" She looked at him and said, "I do." She looked sad to him, though. He couldn't explain it, and he wanted to talk to her more, but felt now was not the time. "I'll talk to Connor about the camping thing. Don't tell anybody else, okay?" "Deal." That night, Jordan went looking for Connor, but found him nowhere in the house. The light in Dad's study was shining through the fireplace, so Jordan assumed his father was working again. Even so, Jordan felt alone in the house. He stepped out onto the back porch and stared at the dark woods once again. He would soon be venturing off into those woods with the girl of his dreams and her bastardly boyfriend. Would it be worth it? Obviously, Dad could never find out about this. Jordan and Connor had 3 days to come up with a good excuse for why they would be gone the entire weekend. Jordan felt a little guilty leaving his father, considering what happened with Samantha. But what could he do? He was only 15. And Dad was used to being alone anyway, locked in his study. Jordan climbed onto the trampoline and bounced slowly. He felt like he was being watched, but not from the woods. He stopped bouncing and sat down, the trampoline under him, and he felt like he was sinking. He was about to climb off when he made the mistake of looking at the stars. There were so many of them, so tiny and bright. Jordan lay flat on his back and simply marveled at that sky. He and Aaron would look at this same sky in a few days. He would do his best to pretend Travis wasn't there. Something touched Jordan's back. He sprang to his knees. He screamed and tried crawling off the trampoline, but then realized that whoever or whatever was under it would probably grab him the moment his feet touched the ground. Instead, he stood up, his breathing ragged. He walked around, fearing to stay in the same spot for too long. He made his way toward the direction of the back porch, wondering where Dad was. Dad had to have heard him scream. Suddenly, something pressed upward at the center of the trampoline. It looked like a handprint, and it just kept rising, up and up, until Jordan thought it might rip through the material. Jordan couldn't stand it anymore. He jumped off the trampoline and ran straight for the back door without looking back. He nearly tripped on the patio steps when he heard breathing right behind him, but he managed to stay on his feet, get inside, and lock the door. And then he made the mistake of looking through the blinds. It was instinct. When he looked, he saw a pair of bright, wet eyes staring straight at him. And then he passed out.